Hey guys, what is up? It's me, Vole, and welcome back to a brand new video here on the Arsenal of Bricks. Today we'll be having a look at this semi-automatic brick shooting rifle. And although it's not going to be a part of accurate and powerful Lego guns, there are so many great features. Also, it is pretty accurate. So without further ado, let's start the video. And here is the Lego gun in question. And before we run any tests on it, do any shooting, or talk you through the details of the gun, first allow me to talk you through a brief overview, as well as showing you how you load the box mag into the gun. So, to start off with, this is a double action trigger semi-automatic Lego brick shooting rifle, using a double action hammer mechanism, of course. It shoots rounds from this box magazine and has a separate barrel. Also, some additional features: it has some technical reinforcements on the side, it has a tactical rail on the top, it has a single piece for the front sight and an adjustable rear sight. The final feature, and a really cool one at that, is that it does have a adjustable stock, like so. Now, loading this gun is very simple, but it is a little convoluted, it is a little fiddly. The first part is the easiest part. If you've used any Jack Street style gun in the past, loading this will be a breeze. So first off, let's talk about the ammunition. They are 2x1 Lego bricks, and you load it into this magazine like so. So if you've done anything with a Jack Street magazine, this should be fairly simple to do. This bit's not the complicated part. This bit's the easy part. What you do once you've loaded all these rounds in is the complicated part. Now, in terms of magazine capacity, the most I would load into this magazine is around 6 rounds. A maximum you can load 8, but I would only recommend you load a maximum of 6, and you are going to see the reason why. Once you have loaded this, it's time to load this into the main gun itself. But it's not that simple at this point. This is where it gets a little bit convoluted. So first things first, just rest it on your leg or rest it somewhere comfortable. Maybe rest it on your body. You need to pull the bolt back, make sure you're locking the bolt in place. Pull the magazine downwards a little bit like this. And then once you've done that, you can then make sure you line this part here that's supposed to be caught by the magazine release. Otherwise, this just won't work. So you need to make sure it's all lined up with the magazine release. And once you can see that the magazine release has trapped the magazine in place, you can then release the bolt and release the pusher. And this is why I'd only load 6 rounds. If you load 7, it's okay to deal with. 8, it's a little difficult to maneuver this, and above 8, forget it, it's going to be too much hassle than it's worth. I'd rather just load 6 rounds, it'll be a lot simpler when operating the gun. Once you have done loading the magazine, you are then able to shoot. Shooting is very simple, just pull the trigger. Sometimes you will get an occasional jam. This isn't very often that this happens. All you need to do, make sure you're shooting in a safe place, because the round will fly off afterwards. And then once you have shot all the gun round, and once you attempt to make another shot after you have emptied the magazine, the bolt will lock back like this. As soon as you see that, it's just a cue that it's time to unload the magazine and reload your gun. So all you need to do is push back on the mag release and pull the magazine out like so. And now I've gone through the brief overview and shown you how to load and unload the gun, it is now time to do a little bit of shooting. Although the shooting practices and the shooting exercises will help gauge a general idea on the performance, power and accuracy rise of the actual Lego gun, this in itself is not a test, more of a demonstration of what this gun can do. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do an unsighted or an iron sighted demonstration of this gun. We've got 7 rounds in the magazine We have got 7 targets over there, and we're going to load it all up, shoot down there, and see how well the gun does. For the demonstration to be of any success, we want to test a different range of positions. So, for these obvious reasons, we've got 3 targets down the bottom, we've got 2 targets on the side, and we have got, of course, 2 targets up top as well, to see if it can work upwards despite what will probably be a quick drop in trajectory. So, I've got the magazine, and I'm going to load this complicated bastard. And now I'm ready for action. Let's go. We've got 3 out of 2 on that range. So now we've got 2 more targets on the top. Not bad, we've hit 2 out of 2 on the top. So the verdict on the gun without sights is it works quite well. There's a few discrepancies with accuracy, which is to be expected due to the lack of power from the gun. However, if you know how to work these iron sights, the adjustable one, the adjustable optic, and line it up with this fixed front sight, then you should be able to get relatively good results with your accuracy. And of course, to deload, fire, remove, like so. Now, despite all the power discrepancies, this semi-automatic Lego gun has managed to hit a modest 5 out of 7 targets. Pretty good, but not perfect. I want to see what changes an optic would make to the performance. Would it improve or deteriorate? I predict it's going to deteriorate the performance of the gun because a lot of the hits depended on the adjustment of the iron sights. To maybe help a little bit, I'm going to maybe put the optic further up a field here, but we're going to see if it makes any difference and how badly of a difference it makes. So we're going to start now, okay? So we have managed to hit 2 targets, bearing in mind we are quite close, and the reason why we're close is because of the discrepancy with semi-automatic, and also targets are pretty level. Let's see what happens when the targets go up a little bit. Nope. We didn't hit a single target from down there. The sight really does mess with the perception. In order to get the best performance with this gun, you do need that iron sight. Let's see if we can try and hit the top 2. Nope. So just to analyze the results here, I only managed to hit 2 out of the 7 using this optic. Using the iron sights, the adjustable ones, we managed to hit a relatively good 5 out of 7. My verdict is not to go for these. I will make one note. The score for the iron sight on the target on the sill and for this optic were the same, 2 out of 3, which shows that realistically, if you're going at targets at the same level, an optic like this wouldn't be too bad. But the best choice would be, if you were to build this and you did want something resembling performance, I would use the iron sights. They work much better because you can adjust it depending on where the target is, how far it is away. You will have to do a lot of adjustments with it because of the nature of the gun, but hey, the facility's there if you need it with that. And may I add another thing, this is being connected with a Technic beam here, and in theory you could get an even longer Technic beam to get an even better range of windage and length. So, if in doubt, go with this. Based on the results of that shooting exercise, it is clear to see that this rifle is a pretty good gun. However, it does have its own problems. In short, as long as you've got the right tools for the job, such as this iron sight, and as long as you are close quarters, you can expect to be able to hit the target in most cases while shooting. Now soon, Although this is an accurate and powerful Lego guns, I would like to give this a normal accuracy test, like the ones we usually do for our other Lego guns, as well as maybe a precision test just to see how precise the gun is. We'll do that shortly. However, before we do that, allow me to go through the details of this Lego gun. This is a semi-automatic Lego magazine-fed Brickshooter with a double action trigger mechanism, and it has loads of additional features such as separate walls, a separate barrel, and its own adjustable stock. Before we start showing you the mechanism of the gun, we're first going to talk about some of the smaller features of the weapon. Starting off with the pistol grip. This pistol grip is standard with other guns. It's done to a 3-stud wide platform, like so, using these small sloped base plates and these sloped tiles to help achieve a nice smooth look on the pistol grip. We've also got a little beveled effect down here to help for comfortability. Laced on the side, held together by these Lego stud pins from Lego Technic, would be these base plates used on the side of the pistol grip to aid with gripping on the gun. They are optional, but they help with the comfortability and the ergonomics, in which an identical feature is sat on the other side of the gun, configured in the very same way. On the underside here is a structured trigger guard, and the trigger guard is constructed very plainly using a set of these Lego Technic axles and these Lego Technic axle connectors, with a connector inside the pistol grip connected with the Lego Technic bricks, and another one down here by the actual trigger on the weapon. And it's connected together like so. Here, this is the buttstock of the weapon. It is made with a series of Lego bricks like this, with some smooth base plates on the top to help with comfortability when resting your face/shoulder. Down at the bottom, there is a small trigger-like contraption that will help release a pin on the stock that will now allow it to move apart. So, if it's like this, I can't move it, but as soon as I pull this trigger bit, I can, and I can adjust it until I hear a click, like so, giving the effect that this stock can be adjusted to your comfortable liking. Although a recommendation is that you do stay within this bound for higher stability levels. If we deconstruct this further, we'll find that the pieces that the Lego Technic stock will slot into are these holes down here. There is a cross-shaped axle beam that attached to the trigger piece on this stock that will allow you to adjust its positioning. There are 6 different positions: here, 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 and here. I would recommend sticking with these first 3, less so the last 3. Looking at a more deconstructed version of this stock, here is the lever that will allow you to adjust the actual stock's positioning. And the way it works is you've got this cross-section Technic axle here, and when you use this weapon, what you'll notice is when you line it up, this axle will slot in to the various holes that will then allow you to adjust the position accordingly and allow it to lock into place, like so. This piece here is the magwell of the Lego gun, and its configuration is as follows. So obviously here, as you can see that it feeds directly into the mechanism. When the gun fires, and I'll quickly demonstrate this, the bolt would strike the round out of the magazine, right there. What you'll notice is you've got these configurations of Technic beams that will keep it all together, and to help with stability and to add some nicer looks, we've added these base plates here with studs on the side, and we've done it in this sort of configuration, leaving this hole here for the rubber band that connects this magazine release. This bit here, of course, is the magazine release, and it will return, once you pull, it will turn back into position like so. And obviously attaching these is fair enough. You've got these little studded connectors here, and you just connect the Lego base plates to that like so. And the same goes for the other side too. Obviously, the magwell is designed to take rounds from this specific magazine, although you could design your own and you probably would do a better job than I have. What you would then do, of course, is pull back the bolt, lower down the pusher, and then slot that magazine in. Wait until the magazine release is in position like that, locking the magazine in place. Of course, you would want to snap back your bolt before you've loaded the magazine. The main purpose of the demonstration was to show you how to load in that case. And then once you've shot down all rounds from the gun, what you then want to do, you pull the trigger. You could also just similarly and simply just pull back the bolt and do this at the same time, but I find this method is a little easier. You pull down the magazine release, remove the magazine, you know the magazine's out because that bolt will slam forward, and there you go. The final bit to talk about is the configuration for the barrel of the gun itself, and the configuration is very simple, and I'll explain the justification behind it, although I think a justification for it was explained in a book by Jack Street called Lego Heavy Weapons. Of course, just to tidy up, I've used these smooth Lego base plates, and then you've got these 3 sets of Lego bricks, with the top and the bottom layer being Lego Technic bricks, so that you can connect these Lego Technic beams on the top and the bottom in a way that's small enough for the projectile to glide out. I'll explain the reasoning here. So the design of this sort of barrel is to allow a full-sized Lego brick like this, for example a 2x1, to be able to slot in easily and be able to glide out quite well as well, so that, you know, it's less likely to get jammed and stuck in the barrel of the Lego gun. Also installed onto the Lego gun are these Technic reinforcements. And the reason why we need these reinforcements is because of the force that this Lego gun can give. Sometimes the gun will split apart. It still happens, but with these reinforcements, it happens a little less often and a little less and it makes the weapon a little less volatile to hold. So these reinforcements are a pretty important component of the Lego gun because it helps clamp things together. And as I've shown before, these Lego Technic beams have got a little bit more strength and a little bit more keeping strength than the and a little bit more robust than the standard Lego bricks of yesteryear. Of course, this is a standard tactical rail. Now, usually when it's on an actual real gun, you'd have something like a Picatinny, but because it's Lego, we use Lego bricks to help attach items on. Attachments are fairly easy to take on and off, so long as you keep it to a format where it's designed to either stick onto the top of the rail or onto these 2 sides and not all 3 little components of the same rail, because then it will probably get a little more complicated to take off. But attachments are as easy, and adding an attachment, but as long as you've got configuration like this, taking off an attachment should be fairly easy. And similar to putting it on, here you've got this optic that we've been using for years now, and we've got this 4x1 set of base plates. Whack it somewhere on here, for example here, and there you go, you've got an optic to use with the gun. Though, as I've demonstrated earlier, you might prefer using the iron sights. On a lowest setting, this is what the iron sights would look like. Obviously, in an ideal situation, you would make sure that this is lined up to be in the center of this optic. And of course, if you're shooting for a further target, you would just lift this up further. So, for example, when you do it like that, you're shooting a little further, and the furthest you can go is around there, which is quite a likely case with this gun. But if you're holding it like this, you're practically holding it like a grenade launcher at this point. And of course, to simply adjust it to a closer distance, all you would do is lower it back down again, like so.
Now, for the moment, we've probably been waiting for, in this video, an analysis of the actual semi-automatic mechanism. And the first bit I'll show you is the bit from the top. So obviously here, from this point onwards, you can see the bow being continued. And as I've said before, it's these sets of Lego Technics that are connected to this big barrel itself, which uses more Lego Technics to connect these beams, allowing for more robustness. Now you may notice this little bit here that hovers over the mag well, and the design of having it this part is, if you notice the magazine, you've got this little studded piece here to allow just enough holding power to hold the brick, yet not hold it back from being fired, thus making the firing process a little easier. So I'll just show you the actual magazine being inserted in. I'll probably just pull the bolt back, because the purpose of this is just to show you the magazine going in. So the magazine would just go in like that. And what you will notice is the design of this, obviously the magazine can't be removed. The design of this configuration here is to allow and to make sure that this stud doesn't get in the way with the rest of the barrel and doesn't clasp onto anything, thus keeping the reliability of the gun. It would obviously cause a lot more jams if this was a full-on Technic beam, and obviously you've got this piece here that's to help keep things in place. Now, if you want to see why I've used this particular piece to hold the bricks in and nothing else, I'll demonstrate by loading the mag in. And now that pushes out like that, with not too much friction as to cause a jam, and the bolt will be pulled back. That'll click into place nice and well, and that will be able to be pushed out further. And then obviously when you're about to fire again using this double action trigger, be like that, and then that fire just like so. Now to demonstrate how the Lego gun would work. So if you can see from the bottom of the gun, you've got this L-shaped trigger piece, and you use certain bricks, these certain curved and L-shaped pieces, to help keep them together. They almost look like a half D, if you want any reference, and I'll show you it from the other end, and that's the trigger piece. It's a very simple piece. It's one entire moving component, and then what the trigger will do is, obviously, just pretend you've got the bolt all the way back. The trigger will be pulled like so, and then the bolt will push forward, and this hammer as well. So now it's time to actually talk about the gun's mechanism itself, and there are three main simple components here. Actually, no, four main simple components. One's pretty much one simple moving part altogether. Another one is just one singular moving part, and another one is something that will help allow for semi-automatic action. So the first thing to talk about is the trigger. The trigger is basically just a simple L-shaped piece. It's connected using these two little Technic L-shaped things with a little circle. Just to jog your brain, it looks like half a D. Just to give you perspective on what the piece looks like, and you'll be able to see more of it on the underside as well. And the trigger is connected with a single rubber band. This is what provides the tension, and that tension is provided there and is held on by the trigger guard like so, and this is enough to keep a working trigger on the gun. The second main component to talk about is this hammer, and obviously the third moving part, which is the bolt. So when you pull the trigger down, what will happen is the hammer will pull down, and then when the trigger's all the way down like this, when there's tension on the bolt and the hammer, what will happen is both of these parts will move forward together, and to help with the movement, the hammer and the bolt is connected together with these two Lego Technic beams to allow them both to move in harmony and thus strike the bullet out in a semi-automatic / double action configuration. Now, there's another thing to note. So if I go furthermore into this mechanism, you may notice a little certain thing on the hammer, which is this piece here. Now, the tension on this is provided by a simple rubber band. And what this will allow you to do is it will allow the trigger and the mechanism to reset after every trigger pull. So obviously now the trigger is pulled, and obviously you can't fire any single shot until the trigger is reset, similar to any other semi-automatic gun. So what this gun's essentially waiting for, what this sear bit will allow you to do, this is the sear, is it will wait for the trigger to be released. So this is where the difficulty in making a gun has been, because you need to have this to have enough tension for this to be able to click back up, and enough tension for you to be able to pull this down. You want things to work in perfect harmony when designing this piece here. So obviously you've got this little sear piece here, and when you release the trigger, what will happen is this sear will go up, and when the trigger's all the way back, and when everything's done, the sear will reset its position, so that then you can do that. So now you've got all components of the gun back together, and the gun is ready to go. But you've got one small problem. Hold on, let me fire this real quick, yeah? This locks back. This gun doesn't do that. It's not supposed to. It's a double action thing. It's not supposed to do that. So here's the problem. You need to apply tension here, and what you will basically do is whack that bolt back into its position like so, and what you'll need to do is attach two rubber bands like so. So you attach the first one like that, making sure one side of it's hooked onto this cross-section axle, and another bit attached to this connector piece here. And to ensure that this doesn't get jammed, and I'm going to be serious here, you need to make sure both sides have equal tension. If you do not, the gun will jam. I'll demonstrate that in 2 seconds. So again, you do it on the other side too, like so. Now the importance of keeping it the same is very important. So like a guitar, strum the rubber bands and you'll hear a sound. And you want to try and get them both sounding the same. So they sound similar enough. If you want to add more tension, what you need to do is, now you've established both of them have got similar tension, you need to wrap it round like that. And you want to try and reciprocate similar actions here, like so. Now, first, I'm going to demonstrate to you what happens if you do not do this. So I'm going to add a little bit more tension on this side, like so. So I'm just now going to demonstrate to you what will happen if you don't have these configured properly. As you can hear, low, high, and I've got the magazine loaded in, and just adjust the sight to how I want. There it is. So the first round shot out perfectly, but that second round it had issues. There was a bit of a jam which caused a bit of a problem, and thus what you would then have to do is just reconfigure things, and it does get to be a pain in the arse. So you have to be careful to make sure everything's loaded perfectly on both sides, otherwise you're going to experience a few issues on the field. Despite the lack of power, this Lego gun has got a lot to offer. It's got loads of good features. It's a very ergonomic build, and it honestly does stand up in some aspects to some of my other Lego builds, including having a high capacity magazine and a robust shell and chassis and a good reliable mechanism. However, all of that will be for crap if it can't hit its target. So here we are with a more informal accuracy test. Let's go. Now it is time to see how well this gun reacts to a standard accuracy test we usually do for our other guns. Similar to an accuracy test, we've set up a bunch of targets down there, and we're going to see how many of the shots this gun can make on target. Unlike other accuracy tests, we've taken into account the round capacity, and thus here we've got 7 targets set up rather than the usual 3, and we're going to see how well this gun can shoot.
Mainly, this is an excuse just to show you more shooting and more of what this Lego gun can do. Okay then guys, it's now time to do the accuracy test. As you can see, we've got the usual set of targets set up. Similar configuration, except there's 7 of them. I've got 7 rounds in the magazine. Let's get started with test number 1. Pass. Test number 2. Pass. Test number 3. Fail. Test number 4. Pass. Test number 5. Pass. And just to help with the failures, I'm going to try and stay in the same position whilst trying to slide down at those last 2 targets, just to show you the range of the sights. Here we are with test number 6. Fail. Here's our final test. 7. Pass. 5 out of 7 pass. Now, despite the lack of power with this Lego gun, I am impressed with the accuracy of the weapon. However, it will be time shortly to check the precision of this gun. I want to make sure this gun has got a consistent performance rather than it just being a shred of luck that I've had with shooting this gun. But before we do so, allow me to talk you through my personal opinions of this Lego weapon. So first off, it's probably one of my most advanced of Lego guns. It is a mag-fed semi-automatic, which is brilliant. Well, technically it's not semi-automatic. It does use a double action trigger like this, but you can't really do much else without using a different source of power, such as electricity or gas. So that's pretty good, and it's probably the closest to non-pre-charged semi-automatic you can really get with Lego, without using something like a motor. One great thing about it is easy to use. For the most part, you don't need to deal with any complicated cocks that you might have to deal with on other Lego guns. You just pull the trigger until the magazine is empty. And that's great, and it's easier for a beginner to use this sort of Lego gun. Another good thing about it is it's got a lot of attachability, so you can put any attachments on the top rail, and you can even put attachments on the bottom if you wanted a foregrip at the bottom. If you wanted any other like lasers and sights, that's perfectly fine. You could attach it to a low receiver. And also another great thing about this is it has got an adjustable sight, which does increase the range at which you are able to shoot this Lego gun. However, due to the fact that this Lego gun hasn't got a lot of power, the range that you can get with these iron sights is a little smaller. But all in all, it's really good that you've got this adjustable sight because it allows for a greater range of shooting. Another really good thing about this Lego gun is its absolute sturdiness. It's very sturdy. I don't think I've ever had this gun fully break, and the only times I've seen it break is inside the mechanism, not the outside structuring. The outside structuring is extremely sturdy. It's because of the next good feature. Different parts of the gun are their own components. The barrel is its own component. The low receiver is its own component. The 2 shells on the side of the gun are their own component. I was originally planning to have this so that it's a gun that you can field strip, but because of a small little error that I made, didn't quite manage to make it happen, unfortunately. But if you have a look, and if you were to inspect the inside of the gun, you could tell that I was planning on doing that. But it did give this gun a strength of sturdiness, including with the upper receiver. And of course, just as per usual, we do have Lego Technic reinforcements as well inside and outside the gun. The barrel has got Lego Technic interlaced with Lego bricks, and what this has enabled for is a very great degree of sturdiness, which we didn't have in our previous semi-automatic Lego Brickshooter. Another really good feature about this is the adjustable stock here. And what the adjustable stock allows for is a greater degree of choice on how far you have the gun, which is brilliant. So you can have the stock placed in different positions for different sets of firing modes. For example, you may have the stock a little further out like this for hip firing like so, and you may have the stock fully closed like this for if you wish to aim and shoot. For the most part, the stock system and the stock beam that the stock is housed on is very sturdy, although there are a few issues with it. And unlike with our previous semi-automatic gun, it uses a more sturdier trigger system, which means that it's easier to latch on and things don't easily break off on the beam part of the stock adjustment section. Another really good feature is its easiness to load. Well, mostly easiness to load. Use a simple magazine like this, which is great because using magazines like this, if you do run out, you can load maybe like 3 or 4 separate magazines, box magazines. When you've run out of rounds, pick up a new one, load it in, and you're ready to go. And loading it is as simple as loading an actual guns magazine. Slot the round in like that, and you work in. Opposite directions until your gun is fully loaded. So say for this example, I'm loading 3 rounds, and it's relatively simple to just load it in. So you would literally just pull the bolt back, and here's where we're starting to get onto the bad features. And the first bad feature is, to load it, you have got to pull the bolt back, awkwardly get the magazine in, wait until you hear that magazine release go down, and only then can you release the bolt. But hey, firing is very intuitive, which makes it all the worth it. But yeah, we are now onto the bad features. So the first bad feature is magazine loading is complicated. Second bad feature is, but it also does work out quite well in your favor, is that the only way you'll find out if the magazine is empty is if you pull kind of like a dry fire when your magazine is empty, like so, and then you have to pull your magazine out like this, which isn't so bad, but it can be a bit of a pain. Another really bad issue is sometimes sections on the mag well may pop off, and it is extremely easy for them to pop off because they are only attached to the Lego gun using Lego Technic studded beams. Thankfully though, it is easy to stick them back on. You just put all your Lego pieces together and whack them back in. Another bad feature about this Lego gun is, despite its sturdiness, when you are shooting this gun a lot, it does start to break apart. That is completely natural, but it is also annoying at the same time. And another big issue, this bit here starts to fall down when you're trying to attach things. And again, this is, despite the sturdiness, there's still a few things that we couldn't quite make sturdy because we needed to make room for the Lego thing. Another really bad thing is the rubber bands in here wear out very easily. Thankfully, the rubber bands inside the mechanism take a while to wear out, but this bit here, these rubber bands, wearing out of those is very quick process, so do be very warned. Another really bad feature about this gun, and this is a really bad feature, not just a small overlooking, is because of the way the mechanism is built here. If you pull the trigger too many times, what happens is your trigger piece or your inside mechanism starts to break and snap. This means that you'll need to go break apart the gun and then see what you can do to even get it back to a working condition. And it involves a lot of heavy fiddling because of how delicate in a way the gun is due to the complicatedness of the mechanism. Another bad thing here is that the walls do sometimes come off, especially the sloped pieces. You'll be slightly better off using official Lego parts, but hey, that's only a minor coincidence. But this trigger bit here, that is something to be very wary about. The trigger can easily snap due to the positioning of the trigger and the specific mechanism itself. And the final really bad thing as well is something to do with the stock. So the stock bit here, this bit itself is pretty sturdy. You might get a few base plates falling off, but nothing too drastic. But one big issue here is you start bending this too far and Lego pieces on here will bend out of shape until things disconnect. Now this itself is a minor inconvenience. That piece breaks off, whoop-de-fucking-do. All these little Technic pieces here will keep the thing sturdy. But another side effect is when this starts to bend, this affects the rest of the gun, and the back part of the gun ends up becoming weaker due to the issues of this bending. The Lego pieces can't seem to cope because the Lego pieces, these Technic pieces, are intertwined with the main gun itself. So this is certainly something to be very, very wary about. All in all, this is a very good gun, but this gun does have a few problems. And final issue, this isn't so precise, and because of the schematics of this part, sometimes the little red Technic piece in the stock doesn't line up very well with the hole, meaning you might have to take, I don't know, 1, 2 or 3 attempts to lock this back into the stock piece. Doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does take a couple of attempts due to a lack of lining up between the red Technic beam on this lever and the Technic beam requiring placeholders on this stock. All in all, this is a good gun despite its issues. It's got a good accuracy despite having not the greatest of power. However, is this gun precise? It is now time to find out with a precision test. Now, despite the gun's shitty power, this gun does hold up quite well in its accuracy. 2 sets of tests using this adjustable sight, we got 5 out of 7. However, is it the gun itself or was it just a shitload of luck? It will be time to find out right now with a precision test. I've got a round of 3 loaded, and although we did make adjustments to what we would usually have as an accuracy test, the precision test will be done exactly the same as the normal accurate and powerful videos, using 3 rounds, fixed place, and trying to hit a singular target. So here we are with the 3-round magazine that we need for this test. We're going to pull this back, we're going to load it in a similar way that we've been doing it the entire video. So, and now we're going to position the gun in a way we're going to be able to hit the target 3 times. I'm going to try and make sure it stays in this constant position, no aiming, no nothing. And now here we are with test number 1. Pass. Here we are with test number 2. Pass. And here we are with our 3rd and final test. Fail. 2 out of 3 pass. To sum it up, despite the limitations that this Lego gun has, obviously being a semi-automatic brick shooter, these rubber bands need to be weak enough for the trigger to be able to pull it without too much issue. This gun is a very good shooter. It's mostly accurate and mostly consistent in terms of its performance. And anyway, these iron sights also assist in being able to hit the target as consistently as possible. And that's it for the video today, guys. If you liked the video, give it a like, and if you want to see more, click subscribe. And of course, next time we'll be showing you something on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. This time we've showed you a massive rifle by my standards, and next time we'll be showing you this tiny little pistol. And this is the tiny pistol in question. It is heavily based off of Bennett Lynn's patent, except I've modified it to be for a left-hand shooter, and I've also added a slightly better trigger here, a slightly elongated trigger to help shooting. But this is Bennett Lynn's gun, and it's pretty good because despite its small size, it is a pretty mighty shooter. Thank you guys for watching, and of course, keep on building.